Hi everyone, welcome to the Rugby League History channel. Today I'll be doing my tips for round 3 of the 2023 NRL season. Last round I got 4 out of 8 correct. Let's see how many I get right this week. But let's start off with the first match, which is kicking off on Thursday night. And that first match on the Thursday is between Manly and Parramatta. This one's being played at Brookvale Oval. This will be the 149th meeting between the two sides since 1947. However, the head-to-head recently has been quite even. Manly's won 5 times, Parramatta's won 5 times. Manly have only played the one match this year, which was in round 1, and I thought that they were very good. They've had the bye in round 2, so they'll be going into this match with a lot of fresh bodies on the field. As for Parramatta, they've had 2 narrow losses to start the year, but last week were quite concerning, the fact that they conceded 30 points at home and Cronulla didn't even have their best player and their halfback in Nico Hines in the lineup either, and they still conceded 30 points. And with Manly, they have a good attack. They've got a lot of options in attack, and unless Parramatta can sort out that defence, they could concede another 30 points in this match. It's very possible. It's also very possible that Parramatta could start the year 0-5. After this game, they've got to play against Penrith. Then they've got to play against Sydney Roosters, so it doesn't get any easier. But I think for this game, I'm going to go for Manly to win 13+. Unless Parramatta can sort out their defence, it's going to be another scoreline where they're going to concede a lot of points in this game. And it's very realistic that they could go 0-5, but I will go Manly to win 13+ on the Thursday. The first match on Friday is between Newcastle and Redcliffe, or if you want to call them, the Dolphins. This one's being played at McDonald Jones Stadium in Newcastle. I thought last week both of these sides had very character building wins. With Redcliffe, they had to come from behind to beat Canberra, and with Newcastle, everything was against them in that game against West Tigers, and yet they still won. So even though they've got a lot of injuries and a lot of people out this week, it's certainly a character building win from last week. I have read that Newcastle are that decimated with injuries that they're trying to ask the NRL to get some of their players that are not in the top 30 into the top 30 so they can play this fixture. With Redcliffe, I thought that they've started the year very well, 2 wins in a row, and I can see them making it 3 wins in a row, so I'm going to go for Redcliffe to win 1-12 there on the Friday in Newcastle. And now we're into the main fixture on the Friday, and it's the oldest and most fierce rivalry in the NRL, goes all the way back to 1908. It's Sydney Roosters against South Sydney. This one's being played at the new Sydney Football Stadium. These two sides have played 229 previous matches against each other since 1908. South Sydney slightly in front in the head-to-head, but it's quite close overall. However, in the last 10 fixtures, Sydney Roosters have only won 3 of those. And as we can remember, the last time that these two sides played against each other were in the finals, and there was multiple send-offs, sin bins, and pretty much both sides just lost it on the field, and there was a lot of bad tackles and things like that. And that's what you expect in a game like this, where both sides hate each other, and especially the fans hate each other. When I look at both sides though, I think to start the year, South Sydney have started better than Eastern Suburbs. I think in the 2 matches that Souths have played, they've looked better. Of course, East lost to Redcliffe in round 1, and then in round 2 they did get the job done, but from what a lot of people have said, it weren't the most convincing win in the world. So even though this is a derby game, it could go either way. I'm going to go for Souths to win 1-12 in a very close encounter there at the Sydney Football Stadium on Friday. The first match on Super Saturday is between the Gold Coast and Melbourne. This one's being played at Seabus Super Stadium on the Gold Coast. The last time that the Gold Coast beat Melbourne in a game were back in 2017, and they've only beaten Melbourne 6 times since 2007. With Melbourne, they're going to be without Nelson Asafa-Solomone for the next 6 weeks, apparently, from what I've read, and they've got a couple of other injury concerns, but I did read that Xavier Coates will be back in the starting lineup. Both sides come off losses last week, and both of them weren't the best losses in the world to take, especially with the Gold Coast losing to St George, who a lot of people have tipped to come last this year, and Melbourne were humbled at home by Canterbury. For this match though, I'm going to go for Melbourne to bounce back. I think Craig Bellamy would be flogging them at training, so I'm going to go for Melbourne to win 1-12 there on the Saturday. The second match on Super Saturday is between North Queensland and New Zealand. This one's being played at the Queensland Country Bank Stadium in Townsville. With New Zealand, the last time that they won in Townsville were back in 2018. With North Queensland, they're going to be without Scott Drinkwater and Peter Huku for this game. It looks like both of them are going to be out for an extended period. I know that Scott Drinkwater is in a lot of trouble over the tackle that he did on Corey Oates, so I think he's facing maybe a 4 to 5 week suspension for that. And we're looking at New Zealand's record when they've travelled up to Townsville since 1995, and compared to some of the other clubs, it's not too bad. They have won a couple of games up there in their club history, and they're going in this match without too many injury concerns or any problems, so they'll be right up for this game. However, I'm going to go for North Queensland to bounce back and win the 1-12 there in Townsville on the Saturday. And the final match on Super Saturday is between Brisbane and St George. This one's being played at Suncorp Stadium. With St George, in recent times, they've had a very good record over Brisbane. They've won 6 of their last 7 fixtures against them. With St George as well, I think they're going to be welcoming back Jack de Belin for this game, so that's good news for them. With Brisbane, they're going to be without Corey Oates for an extended period, maybe 5 or 6 weeks after that broken jaw. So they've got to replace him, but besides that, everyone else that played in the Queensland Derby is going to be there. I think St George surprised some people last week with that win over the Gold Coast. They didn't really surprise me because I believe that they won't come last this year. Everyone's tipping that they will, but I think that they'll avoid it. I think the wooden spoon will go to someone else. With Brisbane, they've looked great in their opening 2 fixtures, and I think that they'll go 3 wins to start the year. So I'm going to go for Brisbane to win 1-12 up there at Suncorp Stadium on Saturday. And now we move into the Sunday matches. The first one is between Canterbury and West Tigers, and this one's being played at Belmore Sports Ground. In West Tigers' entire 23-year history, they've never played at Belmore Sports Ground, but before the merger, the last time that Western Suburbs played at Belmore Sports Ground was on the 2nd of August 1998, and they lost 56 points to 14. Belmean's final match at Belmore Sports Ground was on the 5th of April 1998, and they won 24 points to 10. Going into this match, Canterbury is pretty much unchanged from their victory over Melbourne last week. West Tigers are going to be without 2 or 3 players for this game due to injury. I've read some of the comments and things that have been said about the match against Newcastle, and it's quite concerning if you're a West Tigers supporter. They were playing at home, they had all that stuff going in their favour, and yet they still come up short against Newcastle there on the Sunday. For this match, I'm going to have to go for Canterbury to win. With West Tigers in their opening 2 matches, they've been very underwhelming to me. They played 2 matches at home at Leichhardt Oval to start the year against 2 clubs which most people would fancy them to beat in the Gold Coast and Newcastle, and they haven't done that. So I'm going to go for Canterbury to win, who are going to be very confident coming off that victory over Melbourne last week. And the final match to close out round 3 is between Canberra and Cronulla. This one's being played at Bruce Stadium there in Canberra. Canberra's recent record over Cronulla is very impressive. They've won their last 8 fixtures against Cronulla. Cronulla's last victory over Canberra were back in 2018. The team news for this match, I read that Josh Papali'i will be back. However, for Cronulla, Nicholas Hines will still be out for another week from what I read. I thought without Wade Graham and Nico Hines last Friday, I thought that Cronulla played quite well. They had to come from 10-0 down, and they ended up putting 30 points on Parramatta there at the Western Sydney Stadium, so very impressive from them. And with Canberra, they've started the year with 2 losses, and they don't want to be 0-3 to start this 2023 NRL season. I think this match is going to be a high-scoring affair. I think it's going to be quite similar to the Parramatta against Cronulla game. It could be another 30-26 scoreline. But I'm going to go for Cronulla to win this match. I'm going to go for the upset down there in Canberra. And I think that Canberra will start the season 0-3. So there are my tips for round 3 of the 2023 NRL season. I'm going for Manly, Redcliffe, South Sydney, Melbourne, North Queensland, Brisbane, Canberra and Cronulla. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know in the comment section below and let me know who you're tipping this week. Thanks to everyone that watched me tipping video last week. I think it was one of my most watched tipping videos that I've done since I started the channel. So anyways, this has been Rugby League History, and I'll catch us all later in the next video, which will be tomorrow's Super League tips for round 5 of the 2023 Betfred Super League season. Anyways, I'll catch us all later. Tatty bye for now.